Welcome to Accountable, where your business is our business. Hosted by David R. Peters. Today's guest is Vic Taylor.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Accountable, the podcast for CFOs by a CFO. Hey, my name's Dave. Thank you so much for being here this week. One of the things that I think we can probably all agree on is that it has been a tough few years to be a practitioner, and it doesn't really matter kind of what part of the industry that you are in. I mean, if you've been in audit, I think the switch over to more remote audit work, I think has been definitely been a challenge. If you've been in tax, it feels like the last two tax seasons have just basically haven't ended for the last 2 years. If you've been working in business and industry, I mean, if you're a CFO or you're a controller or anyone who is basically working in the finance department of a company, I think it's been a tough couple of years. A lot of businesses have really struggled, and even in this kind of state of economic recovery, I think a lot of folks are dealing with supply chain pressures and also just rising inflation and just a lot of things going on. It's just been tough to be a practitioner the last few years. And so one of the things that we have been discussing more and more recently on the show is just the state of the industry and the state of the people that are in it. When you go through some very trying times as an industry, I think it's only natural that, that sometimes you start to feel kind of burned out and you start to feel kind of tired. And I think that as I talk to a lot of people that are in the industry, I think a lot of people are feeling that way right now. One of the things that we have discussed more recently, we've had a couple of shows now on corporate coaching, and we are going to talk to a friend of mine that is in the corporate coaching world. His role is a little bit wider than some of the other corporate coaches that are out there. He doesn't just deal with accountants; he deals with all sorts of folks that are in business and industry, and oftentimes will not just work with executives. Sometimes he'll work with staff members and things like that. And sometimes sometimes his coaching is very kind of goal oriented. Want to make sure that we hit this goal or that goal. Want revenue to grow by 10%. But other times he is just dealing with helping people kind of come to grips about what do they really want to do in this industry. And so I think that he is going to be a great guest. My guest this week is Vic Taylor. He is a partner at Taylor Accounting Group, and I've known Vic for several years. He's a great guy, real advocate for the profession, and definitely one of those folks out there that I think is really trying to make a difference in the industry. And so, for those of you that are out there that maybe you don't really know what corporate coaching is about, you don't really know if it's something that you want to do, but yet you're just not getting kind of the thrill that you used to get from working in the industry. It's just not exciting you the way that it used to. I would encourage you to listen to this podcast with Vic. I think that Vic really puts into perspective some of the issues that the industry is facing right now, and also really gives you some good perspective on what a corporate coach can do for you. Because I think a lot of times when we think about corporate coaching, I think a lot of times we think about kind of high-level executives and kind of executive leadership programs and things like that. And certainly there's a lot of that out there, but there's also coaches like Vic who really work with people of all levels. And so I think that, that it's important to see that, that corporate coaching is not just the highest level executives at these Fortune 500 companies that have corporate coaches, that it's also, the folks that are just kind of working in accounting, that are just getting started, or people that are working in, private industry and they've stepped into leadership roles and they're feeling a little bit overwhelmed because of all the things that are going on. If any of those things are you, again, I would encourage you to just listen to this podcast, listen to what Vic has to say, because I think that he is somebody who's very passionate about what he does and really offers some good perspective if you're just not feeling it right now. So, and I think as I talk to a lot of you out there, I know that there's at least some. So, anyway, with that, folks, enjoy my interview with Vic Taylor. My guest this week on Accountable, Vic Taylor. Vic, thanks for being on Accountable.
Thanks, David. Good to see you again.
Yeah, great to have you back. So we have a great topic here today. We're going to be talking a little bit here about corporate coaching, but I have to tell you, the CPA profession itself, I think it's fair to say, is built on technical skills. I mean, there's really an emphasis, I think, in our profession on technical expertise, analysis, and kind of being right, I suppose. That's really kind of the emphasis of the profession. That's the emphasis of a lot of our CPE. A lot of our CPE is sort of built on kind of building up those technical skills. So corporate coaching, I think, is something that maybe doesn't get a lot of attention, and I think maybe mistakenly so, gets kind of pushed down towards the bottom as kind of a soft skill. I really don't like that term, as you know, but kind of a soft skill and something that is maybe kind of lesser than some of these other skills. Would you maybe take a minute to kind of just tell us what exactly corporate coaching is and why exactly it's important?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm with you. I don't like to call it a soft skill because let's face it, it's a hard skill.
Right.
We are technically proficient. We get our CPA licenses. We have all of our CPE. And let's face it, first and foremost, you got to be able to know how to do your job. So that is one of the issues. But the coaching side is a part of our repertoire, if you want to say. If we're going to be good leaders and good managers, being coached or coaching our employees can be critical to the success of the business, success
Right.
of what we do for a living. That you can have all the proficiencies in the world, but if you're not getting your team or you yourself maybe not heading the right direction, then you're going to fail. And you could be the greatest CPA in the entire world, but you may be alone or you may not be able to grow your business. And that's where coaching comes in. And people don't realize that. It's one of the reasons I got into the coaching side is that I realized we could help people go further than where they are. Sometimes you get stuck. Sometimes you get in that rut where you keep doing the same things over and over and over. Sometimes you just need that accountability partner. You need that person who's going to push you some. And that's what I do. I'm going to push you. I'm going to listen to what your wants and your needs are. I'm going to analyze your business, and then I'm going to become your accountability partner. I'm going to help you grow. And we're going to kind of iron out some things. Sometimes it just comes down to people just getting their thoughts focused, getting that priorities in line. There may be struggles of things that, and this is a reality with a lot of business owners, they think they can do it all themselves, and they have, and many have been successful. And it's
Right.
I'm guilty of the same thing. And I see you smiling. You're probably the same way. We're always struggling. How do we do it better? And a lot of the people that I end up coaching usually comes in that they were very successful starting their business, and it was successful for a long time. Now they're stuck. Now the
Right.
world has changed, and the world is changing constantly, and their teams have changed. And let's face it, right now, especially with employment issues, how you retain employees. How do you get employees to do better and at their jobs? And that's where coaching comes in. This is it's not mentoring. It literally is saying, okay, here's where you're struggling. Here's where you want to go, because it's all about you. At the end of the
Right.
day, our coaching is your ideas and how do we get that focus. And it's just like if you played a sport, you had a coach who helped teach you, helped guide you, but also pushed you to be better and forming that unit where you can be successful. Business coaching is exactly the same. I work with executives and I work with businesses, and executives sometimes they're stuck in their personal life. Sometimes they're stuck with, how do I get employees to do better? And sometimes it's just, where do I go from here?
Right.
And that's coaching. That we're going to get the best. We're going to hold you accountable, and we're going to push you to be better.
So I'd like to sort of circle back because you said a lot of really good stuff there. So I think that, so the first thing that I think I heard you say is that coaching is kind of more goals based. So it's not just kind of rah rah, inspiration to kind of start the day. It's a little bit different than like, my cycling class in the morning to kind of get me charged up. It's more than that. It's very goals based. And then I think what I also heard you say though too is that coaching is not just for executives. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that historically, whenever we think about corporate coaching, we usually think of executives. That's usually the kind of the target group, and that's usually kind of the people that seem to be the ones that are being coached.
Sure, absolutely, and you're right. I mean, there is some rah rah. There are sometimes the business owner is just exhausted and they need a little rah rah, and there are those moments. But as for coaching, you're right. Executives have a tendency to take on my services, and other coaches, absolutely, they do that, and they're usually it's ones who are more proactive. But there is coaching that we can offer to their team members where we come in and we try to find out what's going on with their team. And the executive doesn't always have time to be learning what's going on. They're trying to grow the business, they're trying to maintain the business. And so we come in, try to find out what's going on with your team. Why are they so down? What is it that
Right.
they're focused on? And then you'd be amazed if all of a sudden you get them going, you find out maybe they don't have the skills that you thought they did, or maybe they got things happening in personal life, or maybe they just literally want something new. They want to stay with your company, but they want to do something new. You're not
Right.
going to know those things, and they may not feel comfortable opening up to you. So yeah, we can come in and we can coach those individuals, and it's amazing to watch people change as they are getting some coaching and having those services, and the team develops, and all of a sudden the whole company starts like really excelling. So yeah, that's exciting.
So it's something that you can do for kind of the entire team. It's not just kind of it's not just kind of something that is for sort of executive leaders only, because I think that that's kind of naturally where our mind goes. And it is a very hard goals. Like, I mean, so is it's hey, I want to increase revenue by 10% in the next year. Is it those types of goals, or do people come at you with kind of more kind of I just want to move up in my career type of goals, where it's kind of more less hard numbers, kind of more just kind of aspirational.
Yes to all, actually. It really depends on the executive. It depends on the company, the owners. It depends on the individuals. Sometimes I've worked with individuals, and then they mention me to their executive next level, the C suites. It comes down to different priorities, whatever everybody's trying to figure out. Sometimes it's marketing strategies, and I
Right.
don't even need to know what strategies that I may have several ideas, and I may be able to provide some guidance, but then the marketing strategy has to work for you. Sometimes it's
Right.
revenue growth.
Right.
Sometimes it is the decision to cut people. You may have team members who just aren't producing, and that's a challenge. Sometimes people are very loyal to their team members, which I respect, but at the same time, maybe those people aren't doing what they need to be doing, and it. Usually, I've found that when I'm coaching a lot of people, they actually know most of the answers. They know what they need to do. They just can't get over that hurdle. But it's the realm of I've worked on revenue growth, new ideas, new business outreach. I actually just had a client just recently wants to add to their business another piece, doing something different, and that's pretty exciting. But they have great idea. They just couldn't get over that hurdle, and so that was a combination. Sometimes I'm also a financial coach, which I try to help people with their personal finances and
Hmm.
coaching through how do you do better with setting money aside? How do you set budgets, things like that, and try and provide that guidance and keeping them on that track. Because it's amazing how often people are fairly successful, but their personal budgets are a mess. And there's challenges of no, winning the lottery is not a good retirement plan. It's and not knocking lottery playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plenty of people play lottery. I've played myself, but it comes down to where you say, what is a real goal that we can attain?
Yeah.
And those type of things are critical. sometimes when help people, then there's a couple different groups that people fall into. There's the ones who just can't cross over the hurdle, but they got great ideas. But then there's those who are dreaming for the moon landing,
Yeah.
and realistically, they don't have a rocket ship. So, how do we get you kind of pulled back a little bit and making those steps, and you're embracing that excitement of growth, but then how do we get you kind of, okay, well, you can't go run a marathon if you've never run. So how do we
Right.
get you where you're building that foundation? And that's what a business coach will come in and do.
So do you just work with folks that are in accounting, or do you work with kind of all executives?
I work with all executives. Now
Okay,
there are
so you
some who focus just on accountants, but and I have worked with a lot of accountants, but I work with all executives. Yeah.
let's talk about the accounting industry in particular. I've heard kind of more recently. I know that we had a guest on our show a couple of episodes ago that was talking about just fatigue in the accounting industry, talking about fatigue and burnout. Is there something in our particular industry that sort of lends itself more to fatigue and burnout, maybe than to other industries? Are we somehow doing something that sort of lends ourselves to kind of getting into that burnout situation? Maybe that we just really haven't been paying attention to.
Oh, good. What a great question. And yes, there's I have found that, especially my personality, but a lot of CPAs, we're all about getting the job done, and
Yeah.
we want to get it done right, and we hold ourselves accountable, and that's an important thing, is that we do our jobs right. At the end of the day, like I was talking to one of my friends who's a CPA as well, is we're the gatekeepers. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, we're the ones who make sure bills get paid. We make sure that you're making money. We make sure that employees are getting paid, and that's an exhausting, stressful type of situation. And also, there's a tendency that the accounting department is the one that catches all the garbage at the end of the day.
Mm,
You've got people out there
yeah.
that are just trying to get their job done, but they're not necessarily worried about, well, okay, someone else will pick that piece up. I did my job and someone else will pick it up. Well, then the garbage sweepers are the accountants. And it's very stressful when you look at both public accounting and private accounting. In private accounting, you have the business. You got to make sure that the business is making money, that you're going to grow, and that you're cleaning up everything, because you also are responsible to reporting to government agencies. And you
Right.
have owners. If you're not the owner, you're reporting to owners. So that you're getting slammed from every direction. Well, then in public accounting, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you've got the IRS, you've got the state agencies, you've got the clients, and they're all screaming the same thing, and they're all wanting different things. And then tax law, I mean, heaven forbid that we mess up something and something miss something. And
Yeah.
you look at all the challenges of, I mean, just our CPE. I mean, you could take weeks of just tax law CPE and still not
Sure.
know it all.
Sure.
And those challenges, then when you work with some, and I have had this situation, you work with some of your tax clients, and you think, why did you do that? Why, what, well, I thought you just kind of figured out after I had done it. So you're
Yeah.
seeing back and, okay, this is really stressful. And this is the challenge that we have. And of course, this is where the coaching comes in, is trying to teach CPAs to step back just for a minute. Realize that their job is important, absolutely, but also that not everything's on their shoulders. That how do we communicate it? We have a tendency to be that silent army almost, where we just go and do it. At the end of the day, we're going to get it done, and that's what CPAs do. And we work long hours. Sometimes we go 7 days a week because we want to get it right, and we have such pride in it. And people look at our jobs, and I mean, we sit at a desk for 8, 10, 12-hour days,
Yeah.
sometimes 7 days a week, especially during tax season.
Yeah.
And it is stressful because you're looking at numbers all day. You're trying to figure out what's going on. That's a challenge. And and we're type A personalities in many ways, where
Sure.
at least with the work, there may be introverts, extroverts, and all that, but that is get it the job done. And right now, it's a big challenge because people don't even want to do accounting.
Yeah.
And the other craziness, of course, we have to get tax returns done by April 15th, and that has just grown, grown, grown.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's challenging.
So I think you said a lot of interesting things there. I mean, because one of the things that you said is that the industry is kind of a get it done kind of kind of no matter what we got to get it done, and so therefore we're the ones that kind of stick it out, and so you do that a few times, it's probably fine, but then there's probably at some point where that kind of that you start to lose your passion, you start to lose kind of your drive, and that's where maybe we get in trouble. Is that accurate?
Oh, absolutely. The burnout is, and it's growing, David. I mean, you and I both been in this industry a long time, and I think it's getting harder. You watch people just burning out. It used to be that you burned really hard, both ends of the candle, I guess, for a long time, and then you kind of hope you moved up to partner, and that you get some good staff accountants in, and that part has changed some, and
Yeah.
and people are tired of going after it all the time. Yeah, my burnout.
I think that's an accurate depiction of kind of what's happening with a lot of firms, and maybe what is maybe dissuading people from going into accounting right now. What can we do about that? I mean, is there anything? I mean, is there? And I know there's probably not real easy solutions, but is there things that maybe we can do as kind of in the industry, or maybe as leaders kind of within the industry? Are the things that our audience can do to maybe assist in kind of helping people so that they don't get burned out? This industry is a great industry. I mean, I love being a CPA. I
Yeah,
know that you do too.
yeah,
And so, how do we sort of bring back some of that joy that that I think hopefully brings people to this career in the
yeah,
first place?
yeah. What an awesome question. Yeah, and you're as it's perfect. What do we need to do? First, we kind of need to step back. We need to evaluate what it is in our own
Right.
lives, and then we need to look at our businesses.
Yeah.
Sometimes we try to be everything, and especially nowadays, maybe this is where the coaching comes in. Sometimes reevaluating what am I really good at? What do I really enjoy doing? You may love taxes, but you hate the financial side, or vice versa.
Right.
And so you stop and say, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't be offering this. Maybe I should really get good at this other thing that I love doing, and I can just do it." Because I've known CPAs who just love tax returns, and
Yeah.
boy, they just crank them out all day long. But they find that they actually love 1040s. They're
Right.
not really S corp type of people. They don't want to do 1120s. And then you're like, okay, well, why are you doing them?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
stepping back and reevaluating. I always recommend that clients, and of course, when you're doing the coaching, you work with them, you kind of go through each of their uh, you learn them, you kind of evaluate, and as you're talking, you start learning what their real passions are, and they don't even always know it. There's
Yeah.
certain key words as people are talking, you're like, oh, well, that's interesting. Why did you say this? and
Yeah.
and then you start helping them zone in, and that's exciting. But it's trying to get people to identify what it is that really drives them. But then you're asking about how do we get more people in industry. Well, then you again have to understand the people. You may
Yeah.
have people who could be great CPAs, but they don't want to sit at a desk for 12-hour days. They
Right.
may not want to come in at 6 in the morning and work until 6 at night. But how could you develop that flexibility? And sometimes CPA firms have to really reevaluate what their hours are.
Yeah.
What is it that serves the client, but also serves these great future CPAs? And we can actually, if you step back and reevaluate how your business is set up, what
Yeah.
works for you may not work for someone else who could be just as good of a CPA as you are. And I've had some clients that they had trouble recruiting. So we start looking like, well, you're still doing things the way you did them in the 90s. Not
Yeah.
knocking that. That works for
Yeah.
you. But at the same time, step back and say, well, you know what? This whole new generation, they may want to start working at 4 in the morning, cut off about 8, go for a run or a workout, and then they want to
Yeah.
come back in about noon. Oh, okay. So how do we make that work for the clients, but also for your firm? And also, let's face it, virtual accounting
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
greatly grown, and you're not even having to see people in the office. And there are managers that I try to work with that I say, you actually have to see the person to know that they're working. What matters to you the most in the day is the fact that you see them in the office with their suit and tie on and they're working, or the fact that they're churning out tax returns, really great work, or just in financial accounting. Financial accounting, getting back to what is their process. And that's one thing I will say is that accountants make things work, but so often the industries we work in are the process is broken. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
we're going to get it done. We're going to put the piece together, but a lot of stress comes from the fact that the workflow is not right. The process is broken. So we coach them, and they may not even realize because there's that thing where it's and I'm helping one client now with some new technology on board. You wouldn't think that, oh, hey, new technology is going to make your life easier, but you look, they're stuck because they're like, well, my phone system always worked like this. Well, my computer always worked like this. Oh,
Right.
what do you mean I should have two or three monitors? Why would I do that? And you start working through and you realize the holdup is they can do it. They in their mind they can do it faster because it's the old way. But if you teach them that if they'll just give it 2 months, they're going to save themselves another 30% of time each month. Oh, now I see the light. And that's trying to help people with that. And it's the whole gamut of how you can help people get unstuck. And that's usually what I talk about. You're just stuck. How do we get that glue out? So
So how does your process work then? So does somebody come to you and they say, "Hey Vic, I need I feel just kind of like this particular aspect of my business is broken and I need some help kind of fixing it." And then they hire you and you kind of set out a roadmap, or how exactly does that work? Talk to me. I mean, is there kind of a process that you follow, or does it vary from client to client? How does all that come together?
I vary from client to client. I try to identify what client needs, and it's working with that client is they most clients do come to me with a specific problem, and that
Okay.
opens the door. But I have found that most times the problem they came to me about is not actually their problem. Their problem is something else. They may say, "Well, I'm not making enough money." Well, why are you not making enough money? Well, I'm doing these things. Oh, but why aren't you doing these other things? And you
Right.
start working through, and that's where it kind of changes. More often than not, the problem they come to me with is not one we end up fixing. And
Interesting.
it's them. I say we because I consider my coaching clients as a partnership because their success is my success, and I
Sure.
enjoy that. But it's getting to know them and finding out what it really may be the real problem. They've identified a problem, yes, and it may really be the problem. But I'll give you an example. I had one client who she
Yeah.
was a very successful business owner. She could generate money. She was incredible. Her team was incredible, and I could not figure out what was going on with the fact that the funds just didn't seem to be there. She was losing track of things. She was constantly stressed of things. I thought, okay, you got a good client base, you've got good team members, you've got a lot of business. What are you struggling with? And she said, well, I just need to generate more. I need to generate more. I need to work more. I need to work more. And she was so stressed. And I finally, mind you, this took some time. I finally said, well, let's just look at your financials. She said, what about my financials? And I realized she'd never even looked at her financials. She had a personal fear against looking at her financials. She just thought that she just had to work more and she had more money in her bank. So she never got with her accountant slash bookkeeper. Now, the bookkeeper was not a CPA, but she just never got with them. They said, yeah, we're paying our bills. And, she was getting checks. Yeah. But she had this thing from her childhood, turns out, of a fear of looking at her financials, that she was never going to be successful, and so she was constantly stressed. And
Yeah.
so, trying to help her get that burden off of her and say, you're doing great. Look at your financials. Look at what you're really doing. Let's understand them, and then imagine that she starts checking her financials, getting with a bookkeeper once a week. Instead of avoiding the bookkeeper, she was actually talking to the bookkeeper. So it's just as an example, mind you, again, a very successful business person with that one gap. Not what she came to me about, but we finally got to the root of the problem.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing having that accountability partner who can sit down and listen to you and start finding out what is going on. So a big part of what I do, I interview you. I'll sit down, and part of it is, I will say, I interview you to know if you're really serious about the coaching side, because I don't want you to waste my time, but I also, more importantly, don't want to waste your money.
Sure.
It's important. I'm coming in to help you be successful. I want you to be engaged and be on time, and we work through this, because it's going to be painful at the beginning. It's always hard, because
Right.
that big old bright light is shining on you, probably more than it ever has. And how do we get you past that fear almost? So but it's exciting. It's exciting to see how it turns around when you've made the process.
So share a couple of other stories like that where we've had some success, and maybe you could share a few from like folks in the accounting industry, or maybe like financial leaders, that kind of stuff that maybe you have helped, because I think especially our listeners would be curious to hear. A lot of them, they're financial leaders within their companies. How exactly have you helped, maybe CFOs or controllers, or maybe people in the tax or auditing industries? How have you helped those types of people?
No, absolutely. Well, we are creatures of habit. CPAs in particular, are creatures of habit, like I was saying earlier, and so I have worked with some firms to bring in new technology to do things a new way. Like I was talking about, trying to coach them on new flexible hours, and embracing virtual accounting more. And how do you reach out to clients? And so, I don't want to get into specifics too much, because it could get down a rabbit hole. But part of it is, how do I get people to be unstuck? And the usually it's technology for a lot of CPAs. It's their process. Some CPAs I've worked with, it's always, this is how it's always worked for me.
Hmm.
So going through, and that's a big one. A CPA firm that I have worked with a little bit, the new partners, trying to bring in new ideas. But the problem is, they had grown up in this partnership, and they were wanting to do things the way the partnership had always been successful at. And when you first take over a new business, it's always hard, because you don't want to change the business platform, because it worked, right? I mean, that's why you bought into the partnership. And now you're looking and say, the things that used to work aren't working anymore. So we go
Yeah.
in and we try to find out what it is that they are struggling with the most, and
Yeah.
sometimes they don't even know that they're struggling. And CPAs are really bad for that in particular, is that we know what works, and we just think we can just keep grinding through it. We just keep pushing through it. So coming in and realizing that there may be a reason why your business isn't as successful, or that you're stagnant. You got a good book of business, but you want to grow. What does that growth look like? And coming in, helping CPAs do that as well. Um, some CPAs I work with, it is the burnout. That's always a challenge. But CPAs aren't as open to coaching sometimes, and that's always a challenge. It's interesting. I will say, private industry seems to embrace it more, and
Hmm.
it's accountants in particular are, well, this is how I do it, and that's how it works for me, and that's how I'm going to keep doing it. And that's where my interviewing comes in. That I try to find out, are you really serious about doing this?
Yeah.
But helping, probably the most take advantage of the coaching are private businesses, more than
Okay.
anything. And there are a lot of great CPAs, CFOs, controllers, who are embracing, again, the soft skills, as we were talking about, but embracing the coaching to be more successful. They realize that something's not right about their business, and they want to be more successful. Uh, Public accounting, I think, could embrace it a lot more, but it's hard, because so much of our jobs in public accounting are straight technical,
Right.
and getting a tax return accurate, and that's a kind of a different challenge. But they also forget, how do we grow that business? And same thing with private accounting. But in track record, I will tell you, coaching's a 50-50 street. You have some that, when you're going to start coaching them, you realize their business is in trouble. Then you have some who and I've had that. I've coached one guy, had a decent business, tried for years, struggled. And by the time I was coming on working with him, he had some good ideas, but he'd already spent all of his reserve cash, and he just didn't have anything left. And
Yeah.
you have to help kind of people see that. At some point he was willing to do a second mortgage on his house, and of course, in my fear jumps up, and I can't bring that into the coaching. So I'm trying to, because at the end of the day, it's the clients, it's their decisions. They have to make them, but trying to help him realize, what, your business aren't going to make it, and those are heartbreaking moments. But of course, I always try to be the positive of it. But that same client, we help him get back into an industry that he was very successful at, and help him realize, okay, so your business didn't make it, but guess what? All these skills you're going to take into back into working with someone or for someone else, but you're going to be
Right.
successful. And you're going to bring all those skills and all that business knowledge to your new business, and it's going to make your business better, and it's going to make them better. And so helping bring that energy is exciting.
Yeah.
So it,
Yeah.
there's some who embrace the coaching, and if you don't embrace the coaching, then it's not going to be successful. But that is one of the challenges.
So you said a few different interesting things there. So just to kind of sum it up, so we talked about kind of technology implementation and that kind of stuff, being that that a technology implementation might be a place where an accountant might bring you in. You've had some successful stories there. We've also talked about business owners and kind of business strategy and things like that. You said something very interesting though in there, in that some accountants don't actually embrace coaching. Why is that? I mean, is it just a mental thing with us that we're sort of almost too proud? I mean, you're a CPA. I'm a CPA. I would consider myself, maybe I have this mental block too. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe is that what it is? Is it pride, or is it just this idea that the coaching is maybe not something that it's a soft skill and therefore we don't need it? What any sort of insight as to why exactly that would be?
Oh yeah, and that's a great question, David. It's a combination of, I think, accountants, so often we feel like we need to have all the answers.
Right.
A client comes to you, and they may have some off the wall tax question that you never even really thought about, and and
Sure.
and so it's hard for us to admit we don't know something. It's hard to admit that we need help. Uh, CPAs in particular is one of the biggest challenges, and I think that's why I don't have as many working with as many CPAs in public accounting as I do in private, because in private they're more exposed to the entire business line. You're exposed to ops, you're exposed to sales, and then regular administration. So you're working with non-accountants a lot, and so you realize that the processes are so broken. But CPAs, and especially now, CPAs are seeming to embrace it more. Change management, another class that you and I've talked about before that I'm really passionate about, and you are too, is how do we get people to do things better, and how do we get the companies to change process? Well, coaching is part of that,
Right.
and CPAs in the industry are embracing that side more. But in public accounting, I think it's status quo in many ways. Sometimes it's hard for partners, again, to realize, hey, this is what we've always done. This is what works. Why can't people just get on track? And they just need to get on track. And
Yeah.
I see that with business owners too. But for so often, accounts especially, accounting is accounting. It's
Yeah.
black and white.
Yeah.
Your debits, you have credits, taxes are maybe there's a little more gray with taxes, but there's areas of interpretation, I guess, in tax law within certain regions. But it's that thing of, well, I gotta get a tax return done. I don't care
Yeah.
how someone gets it done, they need to get it done. And you step back, and you're trying to help people realize that every CPA may be different. How they function may be different. And sometimes people need to, especially in public accounting and CPAs, we just don't embrace that, because we gotta just get the job done.
Yeah.
And the thought of stopping and getting the job done to embrace coaching per se just seems like a waste of time.
There it
And that's
is.
what, yeah, I just sense it. I've never had I've had people kind of inclined or kind of, they never directly say that they think it's just a waste of money, but
Sure.
they just say it's a waste of time. They just
Yeah.
say, hey, this is I don't have time for this. I've got to get this done. I've got to get this done. And that's what I hear more often than not. I just got to get this done. I need to just get people in the door and get the job done. Just get the job done, and that's
Yeah.
repeated more and more. And they don't realize why they keep losing people. Why do they keep having struggles with people working? And then we always do, we do those things where we read it in a book, and so now we're going to try this idea.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't have that foundation of what makes that idea work. And again, accountants have a tendency to not embrace the new.
Yeah.
And we like technical. We like technical. Technical is clear and can be controlled.
Yeah.
And that's maybe we're all control freaks in some way, but it's embracing these new ideas where you say, well, at the end of the day, what's more important? Is it more important for Vic and Dave to be successful, or is it more important than our businesses to be successful, our whole network to be successful? Because if you kind of get away from just focusing on ourselves, and we focus on our team members, and we focus on how the business is doing better, it's amazing how that trickles down to you are going to have a better life. You're going to have a better day. And it's amazing when you get your team members at the end of the day helping your team members be successful. You're going to be successful.
Yeah.
It's how it correlates, but it's not just getting the job done, it's how we get.
So I think that that our industry in particular is maybe starting to realize, especially, and I think part of this was probably pandemic related. Part of it is probably Great Resignation related as well. Is that we have always kind of focused in on kind of our clients' needs and the people that kind of the external people and kind of their needs, and I think maybe now we're starting to realize that maybe we haven't been taking care of ourselves maybe as much as maybe we could. That's a little bit of a bold statement, but I don't think it's necessarily out of line. I've been hearing that more and more that accountants are feeling pretty tired and just kind of tired of our industry. I know that especially over the last couple of years, it's been really tough, whether it's been auditing or tax, either side, or in industry too. I mean, industry, we've had issues with business models, just not having revenue streams for extended periods of time during lockdown and things like that. Auditing with the move to virtual auditing, very big difference. And then tax season, as a tax practitioner myself, and somebody who works in tax and works with a lot of tax accountants. It is, it's been a brutal 2 tax years. I mean, with the extended due dates and
Yeah.
things like that, it
Oh,
feels like, that tax season kind of almost never stopped for a couple of years there. So I do think that, maybe there's a part of us, that is sort of realizing that, hey, we just really haven't been taking care of ourselves maybe the way that we should. So I don't know. I would at least throw that thought out there, because I do think that that's maybe something that we're starting to realize, and maybe there's that we need to maybe change our ways a little.
well, we're a victim of our success, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we made these things work and have made them work for so long, and now we step back and say, well, where did my life go, or where did my day go? And
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So if you could change kind of anything, if you could sort of present a vision for kind of where you want this industry to head, in the next few years, Vic, I mean, what would that look like? I mean, because I mean, kind of you work with folks in the accounting industry. You're passionate about kind of helping them reach their goals and helping them to try to be better. And we've talked about, that there's some things about our industry that maybe aren't where they should be right now. How would you sort of what would your vision of our industry be in the next few years? What would that look like?
Oh, I love it. Realistically, stop. We just have to stop. We need to make the industry be cooler. We need to look and say accounting is critical.
Yeah.
It's not just we're recording numbers, and we got to get past just being historical bookkeepers. We got to look to the future. What is it that CPAs and the CPA profession in general? Because I've had people say, "Well, I don't need a CPA. I've got a bookkeeper." Oh
Yeah.
well, I hate to say this, but there is a difference between bookkeeping and CPA,
Sure.
and what a CPA can provide. We need to be selling that. We need to be showing people that a CPA is so much more. We know your numbers. We can probably predict your month before you even have started the month, just based on your processes and what we know is kind of going out the door on an average basis, and decisions you make. We need to revamp how we do things. Again, accounting needs to be cooler. You need to make it where people realize, hey, you know what? There's some really cool flexibilities that you can have. We need to open the industry with new ideas. We need to be looking at saying, hey, people want to work from home. We should let them work from home. We
Right.
should be looking and saying, okay, maybe their hours don't match our normal 8 to 5 business. And let's face it, 8 to 5 is not realistic either. So
Yeah.
people look and say, why is it I would want to do this job where I'm stuck in an office all the time? People want to be stuck in office. And I think you mentioned earlier about the pandemic, and people working virtually. All of a sudden you find that they're going to the beach and they're working virtually. And so they
Right.
got this beautiful view of the ocean. Well, what's wrong with that? If they're getting their job done, we need to be embracing those ideas. And trust is not easy. None of these are easy to say, because I look at that. Well, I understand where you're coming from. I'm living your nightmare as well as what you're going through. I mean, and that's the thing. We we provide some good mentorship. I think CPAs do that well, but we've kind of gone away from it. But then also we say work. So what is it that people want to go work for your company doing? And then CPAs looking and saying, why would I want to go in and know that from January 1st, April 15th, going to be a nightmare. Then I got extensions, and then I got to deal with the government. And then why would I want to do this? And then people are going to be mad at me because they owe taxes, and it just escalates from there. And how do we help support our team members both physically, psychologically, emotionally? Because we have a tendency, we're so technical, we forget that other side of that person. We forget that they have families, they have their own lives, they may have health issues, they may have financial issues. There is an entire series of things that affects that employee, and embracing that employee as a whole, and not looking, I hate to say this, but cold hearted. Accountants have a tendency to be seen as cold hearted.
Yeah.
And because we're about the numbers, right? We're about that success of those numbers, and showing people the critical nature of being a CPA, what we can do for businesses, helping businesses succeed, and make just in particular small businesses. What can CPAs do to do that? You come in and you say, you know what? I'm going to help you succeed. I'm going to help you have that game plan so you can start making money. And you've taken money out of your retirement, you've taken money out of your home, you've used your equity. How do we make sure you succeed? Maybe some people shouldn't even be in business, but
Yeah.
how do we, as CPAs, how do we help them succeed? And then we start letting the world know what CPAs are doing. Help the world know that all of a sudden these CPAs can help you. They're not there just to be the ones to say no, 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 no. That's what we're seen as, though. No, you can't spend that money. No, you can't invest in that. But we can be the yes, we can invest in that if we do these things. Or yes, we can do this if we move in this direction. And being that partnership and letting people in, and part of it is going to colleges, going and showing people that CPAs are cool. We don't just have that green advisor. We don't just have that desk lamp. We don't just have a calculator. We are those things. Sure, we have those things, and they're cool. But at the same time, we are there to make you successful. We're there to make business successful. And every business needs a good CPA that can help them succeed. And then
Yeah.
we show them that, yes, we have flexibility in our lives. We can work at different times. We can do different things. You can even start your own CPA firm, which
Yeah.
I've done, and
Yeah.
that's exciting. And that's what
Yeah.
we got to bring the excitement back.
So bringing the excitement back, bringing back, kind of being more than just kind of, historical recorders, kind of helping people kind of think about business strategy,
Yeah.
that is, kind of from it, and also being sure that, that we can kind of, that we're embracing not just kind of the analytical skills that somebody brings to the table, but that person and their personality and the other pieces of them. I think those are all great thoughts for the future. Vic, folks would like to talk to you more about coaching and about maybe what you can maybe bring to them, and or they just have a question about something that you said during this podcast, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
The easiest is I have a email that goes directly to my team. Info, short for information, info at Taylor, Tayloracct group.com. So info at tayloraccountinggroup.com. Yeah, reach out to me. I love trying to help partners in any way that I can, and it's exciting, and I just love watching people succeed. It's a passion.
Well, Vic, thank you so much for all the great thoughts here today, and thank you so much for being on Accountable.
No, thank you, David. Good to see you again.
Thanks for listening to Accountable. Be sure to subscribe for more interviews and insights from today's business leaders.
All tax preparation is performed by Peters Tax Preparation and Consulting PC. CFO Capital Management and Cruise Financial Organization do not prepare tax returns. Peters Tax Preparation and Consulting PC is not affiliated with CFO Capital Management and Cruise Financial Organization. CFO clients or prospective clients are never obligated to use Peters Tax Preparation and Consulting PC as part of any financial planning or investment management services offered by CFO Capital Management and Cruise Financial Organization.